Hello, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the process of recruiting and selecting staff. And my name is Quinn Terry. So this second slide here talks about the objectives for the presentation. So after this presentation, you should be able to describe the recruitment process, the selection process, as well as the interview process for recruiting and selecting staff. Also, you should be able to explain how to make a determination to hire a candidate or possibly not hire them depending on, what you found out, and also the legal issues involved with employment. So recruiting applicants, basically the purpose of the whole recruitment process is for the organization to attract a large number of qualified candidates. The organization can do this through social media such as Twitter or Facebook. Social media is pretty heavy nowadays. According to Carpentier, nurses can have a positive perception of an organization just by viewing their social media page. That's really telling of how great social media is and how influential it is as well. Some organizations use the mail route, and that can be done, they send brochures throughout the mail. And also the word of mouth strategy. Now that strategy is pretty, great for organizations simply because they don't have to put any money into that type of advertisement. They just, have to treat their employees well and have a good reputation. And, word spreads pretty fast on who's a good organization to work for and who's not. So the position description, basically, it describes the duty and the responsibilities, also the qualifications, both personal and professional, and as well as, overall job overview. The position is basically the product that the organization is advertising. And as organizations, when they use advertising, basically they're marketing their product. So the first P in marketing is the product. So that's position being advertised within the organization. Their professional, the quality, the service, the reputation. You'll see advertisements that say, come join our great professional team serving your community since 1949 or something of that nature. Also the place, so it describes the physical qualities as well as the location. You'll see advertisements that talk about, we have great free parking for our employees and, the accessibility to the building. And the fourth P is the price. So of course the price refers to, getting paid, as well as the benefits and sign-on bonuses and those great retirement plans. And the final P, again, talks about the promotion. So the advertisement, the public relations, the word of mouth strategy. Something I also thought was worth noting is cross-training. Now, some organizations will offer that they cross-train their employees to enhance the knowledge and flexibility and make the employee more profitable. I think that's an excellent strategy for organizations. So, of course, the initial step with selecting candidates is, going through the application process, which is usually reviewed by HR. But also you have, your background checks, the reference checks, and the credential verifications. But the most important part, of course, is the interview. So the interview is described as information-seeking mechanism between an individual applying for a position and a member of an organization that's doing the hiring. So the interview process, is your face-to-face meeting. It's how you grab most of your information based on hiring an individual. So to do this, you want to have a structured interview. And that consists of, a written document that guides the interview process. So often during the interview conversation, you can get caught up on tangents and then, you forget your train of thought. But if you have a written document there, it'll help guide the process. Also, behavior interviewing I thought was worth noting because this is greater for people who are maybe like it's their first job or first time college, first college grads who may not necessarily have the work history, but if you give them a scenario of how they may act in a possible situation they may encounter, you can, gauge how their actions or their thought process. Also, proper preparation for the interview. You don't want to schedule an interview at a time when you have a meeting coming up soon. Also, you want to, review the applicant's resume, application, and job requirements, just so you'll be able to ask specific questions for that particular applicant. So in the interview process, you want to open the interview with a nice introduction, a nice firm handshake, and facilitate a calm atmosphere. People are more forthcoming when they're calm. You don't want to create a tense atmosphere. If that happens, you may end up passing on a candidate that really has some good job qualities. Or on the other hand, you may hire a candidate who wasn't as forthcoming, telling you that, hey, I call off a lot or something like that. Questioning phase should really be open-ended questions. You don't want to use any leading questions or yes or no questions. You really want to be able to assess the knowledge of the applicant. An example of an open-ended of a leading question would be, as the text said, "Hey, we have a lot of overtime coming up here. Do you like to work overtime?" The obvious answer to that question would be yes. You don't want to blow the interview by saying no. So that might not be a truthful answer. And you also want to involve your current staff in the process. So doing peer interviews or tours or introductions around the unit, that'll help, get the applicant used to what may be their potential coworkers, as well as that the current employees look at, the applicants that are applying for the position they may be working with. So, following the interview process, you want to summarize their strengths, avoid subjective perceptions, and most importantly, you just thank the employee for choosing you and, coming to the interview. If they have questions about salary or compensation packages, that can usually be handled through HR unless your organization does that during the interview process. And then you'll be here with this decision to hire them or not to hire them. So if their credentials come back great, the education's perfect, the background clearances go through, that's always good. You want to hire them if you think they'll be an asset to the organization. But if not, you don't want to hire them, especially because organizations can be held liable for something called negligent hiring. And that is if an organization hires a person that is not thoroughly, cleared and a patient gets hurt, that organization can be held liable because they did not do their due diligence to make sure that they were hiring the best employee. Which brings us into the legality. So definitely you can't discriminate against someone based on age. There'll be a violation of the Age Discrimination and Employment Act of 1967, which protects applicants or employees who are 40 years of age or older from discrimination based on age. Also, the Disabilities Act. You can't discriminate against someone because of a disability. And also with your current employees, an employer has a duty to make reasonable adjustments to avoid placing a disabled worker or job applicant in a substantial disadvantage due to any arrangement made by the employer or physical features of the premises. So if you have, carpal tunnel and you have to type, your employer does have an obligation to get you a keyboard that's, helps support the wrists and stuff like that, as long as it's not too expensive for the organization. I thought this video here was pretty good. It tells about some interviewing tips. It's pretty explanatory, so I'll just let it speak for itself here.
Interviews are a critical part of the hiring process, but many managers don't know how to conduct an interview well. Here's some advice. First, stick to a structure. This sets up the parameters of the interview and keeps you both focused. Be sure to manage your time accordingly. 1. Give a brief description of the company. 2. Outline the job duties. 3. Ask the applicant questions. 4. Give the candidate an opportunity to ask you questions. Try not to talk too much. Talking about 30% of the time is a good rule of thumb. Watch nonverbal signals. Eye contact, appropriate dress, and self-confidence can tell you a lot about the sincerity and professionalism of your potential candidate. For example, is the candidate sitting comfortably yet upright in his chair? Slouchy posture speaks loudly about sloppy work and low self-esteem. Try not to be too chummy. Keep all your questions job-related. If you spend the interview chatting, you may make a hiring decision because you like the candidate versus whether the person is truly qualified for the job. Prepare. Come up with questions in 4 categories: fact-finding, creative thinking, problem-solving, and behavioral. Here are some examples. Tell me about your most challenging and least challenging job. Tell me about a job you like the most and least, and why. Tell me about a time when you tried to do something and failed. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? What things are most important to you in a work situation? Describe some situations in which you have worked under pressure or met deadlines. What qualifications do you have that you feel would make you successful here? Why are you leaving your present job? In your last position, what were the things that you liked the most or the least? Tell me about your most significant accomplishment. If I spoke to your previous employer, what would he or she say are your greatest strengths and weaknesses? What motivates you the most? Describe what you feel would be an ideal work environment. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission guidelines, as well as federal and state laws, prohibit asking certain questions of a job applicant. Be sure to avoid asking about the candidate's age, national origin, or race. This includes asking where they were born or where their family is from, religion, marital status, including asking if they have or intend to have children, mental history, or medical information. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, employers may not ask about the existence, nature, or severity of a disability or health condition. The following acceptable alternative questions can be asked on the application or the interview, but be careful. If you ask them incorrectly, you can easily find yourself in a sticky situation. So only use these if you have a bona fide reason to ask. Do you have any responsibilities that conflict with the job's attendance or travel arrangements? Are you able to work in the United States on an unrestricted basis? Are you able to perform the duties on the job description with or without reasonable accommodations? If hired, can you provide proof that you are at least 18 years of age? Do you have any conflicts that would prevent you from working the schedule discussed? What languages do you speak fluently? Would you have any problem working overtime if required? Would anything prohibit you from making a long-term commitment to the position? For more tips on how to screen resumes, conduct phone and live interviews, or background checks, visit us at www.turnkeydoc.com. For more free video tips, subscribe to our YouTube channel to sample our how-to video library.
Okay, so you get the gist of it with the interview tips here. So now that you know the tips, there's another video I have that puts those tips into action. Now, it is a good example of an interview, but it's a little over dramatized, if you will. But it has a good message.
Hi, I'm the manager. My name is Paige. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. My name is Kristen.
Which job are you applying for?
I'm applying for the cashier position.
Can you tell me about yourself?
I'm responsible, friendly, and hardworking.
What are your job skills?
I can count money, use a cash register, and speak Spanish.
What is your past job experience?
I was a babysitter and an office cleaner.
What job responsibilities did you have in your last job?
I swept the floors, took out the trash, and dusted.
Why did you leave your last job?
I left my last job because I needed more hours.
What type of work schedule are you looking for? Part-time or full-time? Mornings or nights?
I'm looking for full-time work.
When can you start working?
I can start working next Monday.
Do you have any questions for me?
Yes. What is the pay?
I'm happy to answer that. $10.50 per hour. Thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you. We will call you soon.
Thanks very much for your time. I hope to hear from you soon.
Okay, so you see what I mean about the dramatized. But they did put all the tips into, into action there. All right. And lastly here, I know I talked a lot about having a written script. So this is some examples from our text, box 16.4. Just some questions on what to ask here. You can say, how were you with your previous coworkers? How would they describe you? Tell me about some of your previous work experiences. What questions do you have about this job? And this is my reference list. Thank you guys so much for viewing my presentation, and I hope you learned something.